Very kind introduction. Thank you, Sven. And just checking, you hear me well? Yes.
Perfect.
So welcome to this session, all the colleagues and LoftOS Summit listeners. And I have the pleasure to moderate this session next 28 minutes around the startup factories within Germany. And it's also a pleasure to get that introduction by you, Sven, but it's also a pleasure for me to introduce three relevant people for this round. And this is Volker Hofmann, Tim Hittemann, and Philipp Herrmann. I already saw the three of you, and maybe you can, you compose it now that we are all together. Thank you very much.
We're here.
Good to see all of you. And it's a unique setup. We have never been together in this round, but a lot of other rounds, but this is unique. And I ask you also to prepare and to deliver a unique session for the audience. Tim Hittemann, I start with you because you're next to me is one of the managing directors of the Startup Factory in Cologne, Aachen, and Düsseldorf, and the broader area. Let's call it the Rhineland, and the Gateway Factory there. Then we move on a little bit more to the north from that to Philipp Herrmann, a startup factory called Brick Startup Alliance. He's one of the co-founders there and MD as well, combining Dortmund, Bochum, Essen, all together. And I assume sitting in Essen right now. And the third person is the architect behind the startup factory in Berlin, Volker Hofmann, managing director of Humboldt Innovation. And he was the person to combine and unite all Berlin science institutions to create a startup factory. And I just said that mission was to unite it. And so they just called the factory Unite Berlin. Also a thoughtful name. So without further ado, I'm Matthias, being the CEO of Start2 Group. Nothing more to say because Sven already introduced me. So let's start with the start. The topic is cooperation between ecosystems and digital bridges within Germany, with the example of the startup factories. But let's look at the startup factories first. So I go the other way now, Volker, Philipp, Tim. So please describe your startup factory in a few sentences, and also, that's interesting, hopefully for the audience, the intended role of your startup factory within the German and European ecosystem. The ambition is always high, and we are keen to learn how high the ambition is. Volker.
Thanks, Matthias. You always make the best introductions. So I would summarize the idea of Unite in saying the main goal in Berlin was to come from an ecosystem to an ecosystem, because Berlin is so huge, it's so fragmented, it's so much competition that we sometimes lose track on how to unite to offer better services for our startups, for our entrepreneurs, for the corporates, for our stakeholders. And that was the main mission here. And to really unfold the potential in the entrepreneurial sense to become really a European powerhouse in the field of entrepreneurship innovation. And sometimes Berlin, it's in its own way, and Unite will change it with strong partners from science, strong partners from industry and NGOs. And we have in our consortia over 30 research institutes. That's a lot, but it's something we have to learn to get joint services, to offer joint services. And we talk about later about the digitization behind it. That's a big issue for us. And so our goal is and that's must be always the main goal, to offer better services for our entrepreneurs. And the rest comes later. So being a powerhouse in Europe, being that and that, all nice. If you don't offer good services, it makes no sense. So we are not there just to be there. We are there to offer better services. And we think that united, we can do that. So that's our aim.
Okay. So I think next is Philipp.
Yes. Hi. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
The laptop tells me to switch microphone. I didn't do that. Okay.
You don't have to. I hear you.
So I'm happy. I'm really happy. I'm really concerned now. Anyway, hi, I'm Philipp. At the Brick Startup Alliance, it already tells kind of that we are an alliance, pretty similar to Unite, of course. Yes, I think we really want to leverage basically the assets we have in the region, but also beyond, of course, and the universities on the one hand and the broader research community, but especially also actually what we have in terms of companies and economy. Yeah, so we really focus on specific topics. I mean, we're doing similar things, I guess, but what sticks out probably is we really focus on energy transition with big corporate partners of E.ON and RWE, yeah, providing piloting opportunities. On water, for example, we are very strong on the topic of water as a future resource. On healthcare and on prop tech, yeah, and I think our main approach is really to start early on, yeah, to motivate but also enable researchers and early stage founders to develop deep tech solutions in those focus fields that we have. There's a couple more of those fields, but those are the main ones maybe. And to really build a very, very fast and easy bridge to those companies to be able to prototype and pilot very, very fast without all those complications that are usually arise as in early stage startups offering a deep tech solution in B2B. Yeah, and of course we have a similar topic. We in German we said from Kirchturmdenken to Leuchtturmdenken. So it was around, you know, kind of solving that fragmentation issue that we have. Like everyone does something and there's a lot going on, but there's actually no platform that bundles it and really kind of brings this impact. Yeah, and as you said also, Volker. So I think that is also our goal, to really create, to bundle this together and be able to be really strong player on the European landscape.
Yeah, and before I hand over to Tim, also a brief sentence about you, Philip and Tim. The difference in the startup factory concept is that the managing directors are entrepreneurs themselves and not bureaucrats. And there are good reasons for bureaucrats running stuff in the country, but this is an entrepreneurial thing. So Philip is an entrepreneur leader with multiple venture building projects over many years. So it's good that you engage and bring your expertise here in your region. But the same with Tim, before you present your startup factory, being a former founder, an angel investor, built up B2B e-commerce and SaaS ventures, and really amazing track record. And you dedicated your time now to build up Cologne, Aachen, and Düsseldorf. So what's going on there, Tim?
Yeah, thank you very much for the kind words. So our mission at the Gateway Factory is to build deep tech champions made in Europe. So why deep tech? On the one hand, we see deep tech as a big opportunity for Europe to really catch up to Asia, catch up to the United States. Why champions? On the one hand, because the Gateway Factory is really focusing on later stage startups that are beginning their scale-up journey, simply because we have a very strong startup ecosystem already here in the region, and we see a lot of promising teams come out of the universities in Aachen, Cologne, and Düsseldorf, and we saw and keep on seeing a deficit in terms of scaling these businesses successfully. So this is why we are focusing on scaling. And this is why our ambition is to really build those champions. So companies that are worth beyond 100 million and really have a chance to have an impact on a global scale eventually. And Made in Europe is part of our mission, not only because, as I said, I think it's a big opportunity for Europe, but also because Gateway Factory with Aachen, Cologne, and Düsseldorf is really situated at the heart of Europe. A lot of innovation, a lot of economic power came out of this region in the past, and we want to build on this tradition and really work with our neighboring countries, be it the Netherlands, Belgium, France, and beyond, to achieve that. And I think just like Volker and Philip, I mean, we're working in terms of setting all kinds of programs, both for the teams, ecosystem players, and also corporate partners, small and medium enterprises that we're working on with regards to an innovation agenda.
So everyone in these three, let's call it regions, you teamed up, uniting, building an alliance, bringing cities together. But the topic here is also now teaming up on the German level. Is that possible? What does it mean? Because on the one hand, everyone is okay with collaborating and working together. But on the other side, a startup factory should be a lighthouse itself, yeah, that people talk about the Gateway Factory or about Unite, about Berlin, talk about the BRICS Startup Alliance. So where are the collaboration areas and also the non-collaboration areas to be a lighthouse project beyond German borders as well? And that is also the topic of our session here, how to collaborate between ecosystems. But collaboration on every level is probably not possible because you have to have your own identity and you're promoting that as well in a good way. So I'm curious on your answers on where are the collaboration areas, and also I called it non-collaboration areas. Yeah. Tim wants to go first, obviously, because he was unmuting. So we go Tim, Volker, Philip this time. Okay.
Yeah. No, from my point of view, it's actually all about the startups and all about making startups successful.
Okay.
So it's really not, does Philip's lighthouse shine brighter than ours or not? It's really how can we make the teams as successful as we can, and how can we really accelerate their scaling journey or startup journey overall. And I think each of the factories just has unique assets, and so team by team, it's about identifying which ecosystem, which startup factory and beyond can actually help with this. And so I think that really needs to be the focus. And so that's the way I've experienced like the everyday collaboration between the startup factories, even while we were competing for the funding. That is really all about the teams and making them successful. So just as a general mindset, I think that's super important, and I think it's a shared understanding across the factories.
Yeah. So
okay.
To add to that, I only can underline that it's a shared understanding and so much exchange between the startup factories already. Of course, you always have some, let's say, political restrictions. Berlin would be happy if some of the startups stay in Berlin. It's also about something about funding. But I think the spirit here under the people who run the factories is something to really what's best for the startups. I think what Tim mentioned is a question of assets. My guess is, and maybe that's also a topic today, when we look who invited us here, is what assets of the factories are more easable or more mobile in allocation. Yeah, when you think about talents, for example, that's something we are building networks. It's something we can share via digital platforms much easier than, say, our research infrastructure within the factories. But saying that, we also started a kind of pilot, at least in our initial application of the startup factories, where Tim and I talked about how maybe Berlin startup could use the infrastructure in the region, in Aachen and Cologne better, so because they have infrastructure we don't have. So that's something the startup factory also initiated, a joint thinking of what can we offer as services for our startups together. My guess is in the beginning it would be more questions like co-founder matching, mentor matching, and so on. And so that's the assets which we can easily allocate on a digital level. And the next steps come after that when we go to infrastructure or some other things.
Yeah, I think I can continue at this point. I think on a mindset level, we totally agree. Yeah, I mean, all of us, I assume. And then when it comes from mindset to concept, I think also in principle we agree. But then also the work starts. Yeah, so it's very easy that we agree. But then how? I think it's an interesting question. Yeah, and then to prioritize, then actually put some work into it. I think this is really part of our job still. Yeah, I mean, collaboration doesn't come by itself or just on paper. So I think this is really something we need to think about. And I agree, when it comes to startups, there can be no competition at all. I mean, this has to be just the best solution for the startup, no matter what. And I think another really important target group are investors, for example. And there, I hope also, of course, that we will be sharing absolutely every investor contact we have, and we also have kind of the responsibility to do that, because as an investor, as a European top investor, you don't want to talk to 10 startup factories, and we didn't talk about the DE hubs and whatever there is, yeah. And so there's so many initiatives, and I think that is pretty annoying as an investor. So I think there's both an obligation but also a kind of an opportunity for us if we present ourselves as a unified platform and transparent platform that collaborates. Yeah, so I think startups and investors on both ends. I think in corporates there might be some competition, yeah, because corporates, they have certain budgets, yeah, they allocate certainly, and not every corporate thinks maybe the same way, yeah. So I think this is a more difficult field. But I like the mindset, let's focus first on the low-hanging fruits and what we can actually deliver, yeah. And when we create value and focus on the problems, maybe in the second phase, yeah. So I think we agree on that. But I just wanted to also clearly say, I think it's a lot of work to do that, yeah. So we need to really dig into that. And of course, at the same time, we're all building our own teams and our own propositions, and this doesn't come by itself. Everyone knows that, obviously. Every startup knows that. So this is a challenge, I think, but not on a mindset, and also I think eventually not on a concept level, but on an execution level. I think it's not, it's not that easy to do that, but I think we will do that, and we will begin with prioritized areas.
Yeah. So I'm with building ecosystems since 15, 17 years, and I think there's a new tone in the system in Germany that the mindset is there. I know all of the managing directors of the startup factories and also the teams behind the mindset. I would give it a check mark also to the three of you. Also on the investor and startup side, I agree as well, but I wanted to echo on that and then turn the next round of question. If it comes to work and building the teams and to the audience, the teams are just built up. It's officially started 1st of October. It's many startup factories are in the hiring process and creating the work packages and bring it so auf die Straße bring it to the street. That doesn't exist in English, so just get started. Yeah, let's put it that way. But the work is really there. So what role does the digital infrastructure play? Because it's the LoftOS Summit and they build an digital infrastructure. So how do you see that? Is that something you build for your own or you share? Also, again, collaboration, non-collaboration. Everyone agrees on the concept level. It's good to team up, but it's not so easy as you when you really comes to execution. I know that very, very well. So what role does the digital infrastructure or your digital backbone play here? Because if it comes to investors, you for sure one investor database is the optimum, or that it's all team, but everyone is building up the investor base for themselves right now, I assume. So maybe you share your thoughts on your digital backbone, on the digital infrastructure around the startup factories. Maybe we start with Volker, and then we didn't have the order Volker, Tim, Philip.
So from Unite point of view, it's something like where we're going to spend not most of the money, but a big amount of building a digital twin of our ecosystem. Because
that's a statement.
Yeah, because as I mentioned before, you will never manage Berlin and Brandenburg on a physical level. No way we're going to scale our services there. So that's something, the idea of the digital twin of the ecosystem to serve our founders, entrepreneurs from starting as a student in a university and become a successful entrepreneur, die and spend your money back into the ecosystem, that's the goal. And then we learn, it's the data drivenness of all the data points we have, and we learn how to improve our services. That only can be the tool. And that's, of course, has a lot to do with the processes behind it, and if you don't have your processes right, you don't have to digitalize. So that's a big effort we have here. But our goal is to be on an absolutely different level in the next 5 years, because our belief is also that the most digitized ecosystem are the most competitive. And what it also enables in the next step is that it's much more easier for us to collaborate on a national level with Tim and Philip, Matthias, you as Start2 Group, of course, and then also looking at Start2 also on an international level. So there will be no way, if you don't have a really kind of digital way to offer our services, we are really scalable, collaboration ready, and that's why we're going to spend a lot of effort and resources in going to that point. That's our vision here.
So we can expect a digital twin for Berlin. What can we expect with you, Tim?
Yeah, I will just do copy paste and take what and his team are building and just translate it over here. No, but from my point of view, being smart on the digital end is the key to actually being successful as a factory. I mean, there's so much matchmaking happening at the core. It's all about matchmaking on different levels, co-founders, investors, mentors, etc. And we kind of think about it almost as building like a booking.com for the startup journey. I mean, that's kind of maybe so. And yeah, that's something that we're definitely looking at very intently. Also, obviously, I think a lot of the matchmaking, etc., also lends it to the whole agentic movement, etc. So digital is top of mind for us, and we're trying to find the right operating system to execute against that. But we're still figuring it out. And so for me, it's definitely something to collaborate on with among the factories. It's probably not something where we can put all 10 or 15 factories with 3 people each into one room and come out with something good. But we should definitely collaborate. I mean, also given Philip's background, you're up next, but I think that's also your home turf, building building good systems, building good solutions. That's also where I come from. Berlin has a lot of talent in that space, so we need to do it together. Totally makes sense.
So we have now built a digital twin for the whole Berlin startup ecosystem, booking.com for startups in Cologne. So Philip, now they set the tone, but and include in your answer how you really want to collaborate and how is it possible with the two others and others. But over to you, Philip.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I just need to say that we built a Tinder. Or TikTok, I don't know. No, but sorry, I'm just kidding. I think it's good to it's good to have this metaphor, right? To have a clear understanding that is a user-centered approach, and a seamless kind of product that works, basically. So I like these metaphors very much, and I think even a Tinder aspect makes kind of sense. But to come to the point, we have been a little bit cautious now, because I think not in terms of the vision we share. I think the vision, it's very clear. We need a digital backbone. But also I see, of course, a risk of now fragmentation. Everyone builds something, we just start building, and kind of a risk of also featureitis, we call it in the back. Like everyone builds features, and you can do so many great things, But then everyone invests, and usually that's not the most user-centered or most efficient way. So we said, okay, let's wait and also look for cooperation opportunities. So very clearly, and I'm also saying this here, this can also be a kickoff, like let's say of a smaller group, of course, involving then a bigger group. Really think about this also together, and using what's there and what's tested. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. So I think a lot about APIs, so that we need to be API ready. We need to, if we introduce a system on our end, it needs to be API compatible, basically. We don't have a clear API yet, but I think that's a great idea. Just be able to log into other systems plugin wise. So this is what we are doing, but we're not building the actual platform at the moment, because we don't think we should build it ourselves. We are, of course, looking into all kind of providers. Of course, also LoftOS is one of the leading ones. But then again, we don't want to have like the different startup factories use like 10 different systems. There's still a couple of them out there. So I think it's really now the time to come together and talk about this. And I agree with you, of course, Tim. We can put together, or Volker, did you say that? Put together all people and discuss. But I think if we are a group of 5 or so that kind of starts to think about it and makes proposals that make sense, this is the way to go. We need to start making proposals and coming out with the concept, and only then others will follow, hopefully. Do we need to have everyone on board? Maybe not. It's also okay if 2 or 3 say we don't want to do it that way, and we should still push forward. What we should not do is have a compromise where everyone agrees on 10% that makes sense. So we need a group that agrees on 80% and then do it. So I hope, I'm very hopeful this is going to be a high percentage of people who can agree on 80% of the sensible stuff that we can implement.
I think this is really one of the interesting things happening the next 12 months, how to sort the balance on the digital collaboration between the startup factories. And not everyone, you cannot wait for everyone, and everyone are maybe even more institutions. And also it cannot be dominated by one, and also not top down, because they are independent entities with proud and bright thoughts. So the race is on the digital collaboration. And also regarding the audience, there are new formats of talks and conversations are created these days. Just this happening right now. I'm in contact with a lot of them, but I just learned a few things as well. Okay, Sven, we are already 2:12, so we have 3 minutes left. So I ask you a final questions to the 3 colleagues. One sentence, how do you see the role of the factories internationally or European-wide? Is that other factories a game changer for Germany, which we need, or not? I assume they are, in your opinion, but let us know why. So how do you see that from a European perspective? And make it in a 30-second answer, please. We go with Philip and Volker and Tim. Make it easy.
Okay, so first of all, I'm so happy you learned something. Then it's a good session. I mean, you don't learn so much, I guess, anymore because you know so much. Anyway, just kidding. So yes, of course it is, and it's mostly because we solved the fragmentation problem, and we still need to work on that. But I think Europe is already fragmented. Germany is super highly fragmented, and if we take this part and make it better, then already this will have, I think, can have a huge impact.
Okay.
For us, it's I would say it's a starting point. Yeah, it's something which really gives a drive. What we are using, so what we want to see is how the product unite, how the product capital region can be placed on a different level internationally. And what we are using as a strategy is a leverage via the Start2 Group, because that's something Philip mentioned in the digitization way. Don't invent everything new. Use strong partners, use the leverage to scale and be fast, and that's our strategy here.
Yeah, from my point of view, the setup of the factories, in the sense that they are as close to the universities as necessary, but at the same time as far away as possible, and can really act as entrepreneurial units, that opens up a whole new space for collaboration also on the European level. So that's something that is very well received on the European level. And I think a lot of the other European countries are looking at the startup factory movement here in Germany and are super interested, are super excited to see how much also private money is being invested into this foundational work. So I'm very bullish. I'm very bullish on the startup factories, very bullish on Europe. So let's do it.
Yeah. So my closing words, and first of all, apologize for being not horizontal. It's
cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Whatever, very cool. So it's a new way on looking at you. The startup factory is something which has never happened in Germany, but also in Europe. It's 100 million euros over the next 5 years from the private side, another 100 million euros from the government side as a pure matching. Entrepreneurial leadership like you guys. I spoke with the EU commissioner 3 weeks ago in Dubai about that again. They are really looking in from a European level, but many other countries, never happened before. So there's a good chance that Germany is different, but it needs not fragmentation again. We have to find ways to team it up, not in every level, but in some levels. But the truth is in the execution, not only in the planning. But it starts all with the mindset. I think you showed it today. Thank you very much. And just for the audience also, what's next? Philip and me meet again in Lisbon on the Web Summit, and think 3 days to be on stage again on German startup factories. There we present more the German perspective, but it's backed with other factories. So we really started a new conversation, how we present Germany and how we give the university their role and to create startups. That's why it's called Startup Factories. So thanks, Tim. Thanks, Volker. Thanks, Philip. And thank you, Sven. And back to you, Sven, on time.
Yeah, thank you all actually for giving all these insights. I would love to give it also to the audience. Maybe there are 1 or 2 or 3 questions that you want to raise to the panel. If we all got you here together, we should use the time.
Are you moderating it, Sven? Because I think Yara Windruf meldet sich, and I can choose between Frage zu sprechen or schlummern.
Perfect, Yara. Just go ahead. You know how to do it.
Maybe.
Or she was just applauding.
She was applauding. Okay.
That's fine. All right. Other questions? Let me take a look into the chat. Yeah. So maybe then a quick question from our side. So what, of course, everyone is interested in, how would you see now the start of the factory program so far? So what is your first take on how the first weeks actually went? Are you satisfied with progress? Are you satisfied with the idea, with the structure? So how would you rate this huge, as Matthias said, this huge program until now?
Maybe I start because I go out afterward. So I need to leave. So just to say, so Unite here in Berlin is really something which we built completely new. So as you can imagine, it's hiring in the last week. So having the best talents to support our entrepreneurs and corporates, that's something we're on at the moment. At the same time, we have a strong stakeholder management to our science-based community to make them ready to scale, and that's our first few weeks and the upcoming weeks that we're going to do. And then I want to say thank you to you, Sven, to you, Matthias, to Philip and Tim. That was enjoyable. I'll see you next time. Yeah.
I see you.
Thank you, Volker.
Maybe just to quickly add, I think really from a politic point of view, this has been already also really set up, I think, quite well. Yeah, it's a great, it was competition, but collaboration. And I think also now how they want to handle kind of the grant system and everything, I think this is also important, yeah, that we can focus on our actual work and not on the grant, I don't know, reimbursement processes. So I think it's really a shout out to how it's overall handled. Of course, there's still bureaucracy a lot, but within that framework, I think it goes so far quite well. Of course, we'll see in the future, but so at least, I'm a little bit hopeful that maybe we can repeat such political actual actions in the future. And I think it's really something we can look onto.
Yeah, just from our end, we kicked off one of our flagship programs at the beginning of October, and I'm just super excited to see the quality of the teams, especially like in this early scale-up phase. Team quality is excellent. It's big fun to work with those teams. So that's one learning. The other learning, also going back to something that Volker said in terms of hiring, we're really blown away by the quality of the applications that we're getting and how much really serial entrepreneurs and also people from corporate positions can really motivate themselves and align with our idea, align with our vision, and really want to join the movement, and there are no monetary incentives really for them, or no financial incentives to do that, to be honest, but they just say, well, we want to be part of that because it's the right thing to do. And that's just super motivating for us to see the quality of people. Yeah.
That's super nice. Yeah, looking forward to see the next steps and the next phases of the program. Once again, thank you a lot for joining today and sharing the insights. I'm super happy to stay in contact.
Thank you for hosting. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.